of you guys are still awake. It's about 8:30, and it's not quite like it's like morning for me in Jakarta. So I would be just finishing my quiet time by this time. But it's really awesome. I'm just so inspired being here. Besides meeting old friends, like I have friends from way back. When my first few years in the ministry, we always drove to Hampton Roads, and we will do the trails, and just to see a lot of familiar faces. And the best part of this is to see so many young faces. Like you guys just pump me. Spiritually, energy, everything, and just listening to all the good news. I was just asking Deb, I said, hey, how much time do I have?
I'm done it, baby.
Deb was like, yeah, you can, as long as you need. I said, no, you'll be falling asleep. So anyway, I'm very encouraged being in Chicago, and I was inspired by Kay's challenge yesterday. Sister saying engage, be involved, because we play an equal role for the ministry, because God has chosen us to be here for that reason. It was really cool this year. We had Sister came to do a workshop and talk about when God created woman. The process was like making a palace. I was like, oh, wow. I like that. And that is something that we need to have in mind, that when God put us all in the ministry, it is for that purpose. Amen. It is for us to inspire women around us. I hope you guys are encouraged by the lesson workshop earlier. And I hope none of you are feeling guilty if things are not working the way like when we shared about it. I mean, it's everything is a learning process. I've been in the ministry for 22 years. It's as old as my oldest daughter. I was pregnant with her for 7 months. And when we signed up for the ministry, my dad thought I was insane. He was like, you work for a church? How are you going to feed your child? I said, well, I'll nurse her. That's free. But it's after 22 years, and I still enjoy the ministry. I love it. I love doing this because you're doing it for God. And I enjoy reaching out to people, study the Bible with people, and even just watch how God transformed their life. I have a passage that I know all of us are familiar with. It's John 4.
Come on, Vanya.
Well, this is a passage that I'm sure all of us have used to teach. When Jesus met a Samaritan woman, it's very familiar. But I would like us to look at the interaction between Jesus and this woman and learn from it and pick up all the small things and discussion that Jesus had with this woman. John chapter 4 verse 4. Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour, so that's midday, noon. And when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? His disciple had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? And we all know that in the Jewish tradition, men don't talk to women, especially a Samaritan woman. And this woman immediately draw a distance. It's like, nobody speak to me. Why would you? But Jesus reached out to her. Jesus initiated a conversation. And I know sometimes this is a situation we can all relate to when we reach out to a stranger. You talk to them, they're like, do I know you?
Yeah.
I have had that many times when I do cold contact. They're like, do I know you? I said, oh, no, you don't know me. Let me introduce myself. I have that, like weird look. When I was in Singapore, like some woman, like I reach out to, do I know you? I say, no, you don't know me. I'm introducing myself. It's like, oh, okay. Are you always this friendly? Yeah. And and the next part, you could actually hear Jesus answer her and say, like, if you knew the gift of God, verse 10 and 11, and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. And watch this, sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his flocks and herds? She has got. She challenged Jesus, like, you have nothing to offer me. You don't have anything to draw the water from. At least I have something to draw the water. And, on verse 15, the woman said to him, sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. That's also, it's almost like a cynical challenge. Like, hey, you have nothing to draw, but I still want water from you, so I don't have to come here. But if you notice, like, the following part of that conversation, Jesus actually went deep. Jesus was like, hey, go call your husband and come back. The woman said, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, you are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have 5 husbands. The man you have now is also not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. When caught red-handed like that, the woman was like, well, sir, I can see that you are a prophet. I can't run away from you. Our father worshiped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Jesus declared, believe me, woman, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, has now come, when the true worshiper will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For they are the kind of worshiper the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshiper must worship in spirit and truth. The woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I who speak to you am he. Wow. How would you feel if you're that woman? I'm speaking to the Messiah who knew everything about me. But what I would like us to zoom in is to look at Jesus' approach. Jesus actually don't stay with the tradition. He doesn't do the common thing. Jesus is not conform to the Jewish tradition. It's twofold. And this woman did not hold back in her curiosity. She actually asked questions. She expressed her thoughts. Sisters, sometimes, we came from different walk of life. We came from different backgrounds. Some of us are more counterattacker. Some of them are more defective. And some of them are more timid. It all depends, and you think like, well, I'm not sure I can do that. Vanya, she's just very strong and confident. I don't know I can do that. Or, you look at Deb, Deb is just so smart. She has answers to everything. I'm not sure I can do that. And I think sometimes that's how we look at ourselves. But sisters, I think being in the ministry for 32 years, I've learned a lot of lessons. I made a lot of mistakes too. I was asking an advice from Dad. I said, should I share my journey in the ministry with all my mistakes? Dad was like, yes, please. So I'm gonna break it down. My first part in the ministry, I was stupid. I was very I didn't think. When somebody say something, I think my dad wanted a boy in me, so he trained me to be expressive, loud, and say whatever I thought. And I kind of brought that as a disciple into the ministry. And sometimes I say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And Harlem will give me this look, what are you saying? I said, well, I'm honest. But sisters, my first part in the ministry, we were leading a small group. And it was about 20 of us. And I think the thing that I learned is we were given goals. And you were given, I don't know if you guys still do that. We have to set goals. Every week we have to check in our prediction. And we have to talk about how many studies we have. And of course, it's it's exciting when you set goals. But after being in the ministry 22 years, I had learned that those were not the thing that will keep us going. Setting goals is good. It keeps us focused. But setting goals just to perform and to have results, it's not the best thing. I have 3 points, sisters. I think these are the 3 points that kept me going for 22 years. And this is something I would like us to take away and remember that no matter how we do, no matter how we perform so far, it's okay. The first thing we need to always keep in mind is we need to keep loving God with our heart, mind, soul, and strength. That is the ultimate. It's like when we first became disciples, before we have this dream for the ministry, we actually learned to love God. And that is something that we don't want to mess with. That's something that we don't want to compromise. It doesn't matter how big, how small, how busy, how much you travel, that is something that we don't compromise. And I think, sometimes loving God comes in many forms, but never compromise on our walk with God. I appreciate the book that Deb wrote. When I stepped into the ministry, I was 7 months pregnant. So 4 months in the ministry, you have all this baptism goal. But I was nursing, my baby wakes up every hour. I was like, how do I do this? And quiet time was a struggle the first week. But then I decided, every time I wake up and nurse my baby, I will pray. And it became so much fun. Because you actually get to talk to God every hour.
Right.
I was like, actually I'm really enjoying it. And it's like I have the names of all the studies. I told all the women, I told all the sisters, whatever studies you have, give me the name. I'll pray through these names through the night. And it's amazing. We had 7 baptisms in a month.
Wow.
And I didn't do anything. I was nursing my baby. But that was an experience. That was a journey that I learned over time that, actually in a lot of the things we do in the ministry, don't get stressed out over performing. Keep your heart strong in God. When you love God, your women see it. Your study see it. I'm studying the Bible with a very accomplished chef. She's like the Rachel Ray of Indonesia. And when it took us about 6 months to gain her trust. And hang on just a minute.
Come on, Vanya.
And when she decided to study the Bible, she was like, how do you make reading the Bible fun? I said, well, you gotta decide that you will enjoy reading God's love letter. Do you look at your Bible like it's God's love letter to us? Because it's actually show how much God has persevered with mankind, how faithful God is even when we messed up. And then he's like, oh yeah, So she's pulled up, she has a lot of Bible. People gave her Bible. But she said, hey, I have many Bibles, but I think I like this one. I said, stick to it. You can color it, you can draw on it, whatever. And she has been studying the Bible for the past 1 year. Who got to see them? Ashley. Yeah, you guys, yeah. They came and visited us, and it was Will's birthday, and she cooked dinner for like a group of us. But now she's like, she's actually talking about the Bible, and she's actually sharing her quiet time in our group chat. So I use group chat a lot for quiet time. Like whenever we have a study, this is actually how, you actually guide the study, or, leaders that you're raising up to share their quiet time, and also to train the studies to enjoy Bible reading. And sisters, when you love God with all your heart, you will be very creative. And that is something, I think that is the foundation we need to pass on to anybody we deal with.
Amen.
That we'll have our own kids, start them early. I used to always bring my 2 girls on a prayer walk. We live in a compound. So we'll do prayer walk, we'll look at the flowers, the birds, the sky, and just the different shape, like stone and rocks. And we'll pray through all the small things. And that is how we introduce God to people. When you have a close walk with God, it's easy for you to talk about God. And I think in a ministry, that is the ultimate thing. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how big or what's the size of the ministry, how many people you disciple, how many churches you oversee. I think we should never compromise on the basic.
Amen.
When loving God is the ultimate, we will actually really enjoy what we do every day. Imagine that you're on a project of saving souls, and you're doing it with God. It should be fun. It should be something very exciting. It shouldn't be like, I have to meet I have to follow my schedule. I have to meet my target. It's not that. Ministry is not that. I think I would die if I had done that. But of course, being, like when we first joined the ministry, it's very easy to fall into the temptation. I have to do my job because I'm paid. No, you're paid because we don't want you to worry about taking care of your basic need, but we are doing it because we love God. There was a couple of times I was discouraged. When people had attitude toward you, you get discouraged. Yeah, no one can relate to that, right? Yeah. No. So I have a couple of leaders that had attitude toward me because I was nursing and I stay home too much. They're like, Vanya, you're always home. I said, my baby is 2 months old. And no one had baby then in the church, so they don't understand. It's okay. And I told Harlem, like, oh my goodness, they were my best friend, and now they're critical toward me. I don't know if I want to do this. Harlem said, well, how many people? 2? Why did you sign up for the ministry? Yeah, because I want to love God, then stick to that. Sister, a lot of us, we sign up for the ministry because we want to do great things for God.
Yeah.
You know what? Remember that. Yeah. We are doing this because we love God. Yeah. My second things that I learned is actually, I think, being in the ministry, being a leader, the other temptation that will get to us is because we think we are a leader, sometimes we feel like we need to know everything. You know, my second big lesson is for me to learn to guard my heart. You know, we use this verse in Proverbs 4. Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. But do we really, really still have conviction on that? You know, I appreciate, you know, what we learn, like, you know, keep our hearts soft. The Brian and Karen, you know, we need to keep our clay soft. And I think it doesn't matter if you're in the ministry for 25 years, 30 years, 10 years, 5 years, 2 years. This is something that we need to always keep. You know, we need to make sure that we got our heart, because we can learn from anyone. You know, I enjoy studying the Bible with new people because I also get to learn from their life. You know, says who's that we always have to teach the Bible. I enjoy getting with women that I'm studying the Bible with, because whenever I sit down with them, I learn from their life. You know, when we reach out to anybody, you are actually learning about what they went through, what they have built up over the years, and how do you introduce God into that picture. You know, it really makes your appointment exciting. And that's what I always enjoy. You know, we learn about relational evangelism. People ask me, how do you keep up with your, you know, contacts? I was like, I have to think. Because, you know, keeping up with our contacts, people that we reach out to, I have friends I've been reaching out for 10 years, 15 years. Even my college roommate, I'm still reaching out to her. I've been married for 25 years, almost 25, out of college. So she was my roommate 30 years ago. But we still in touch. And, you know, we were like, hey, you know, let's get together. But I travel so much, and she traveled too. So it's hard to match our schedule, but we're in touch. You know, I'm on WhatsApp. Hey, what's up? And Jen was telling me, hey, Vanya, you better share how you keep up. I was like, actually, I don't always meet with them. I don't have dinner or coffee every week with them. But you keep them in your prayer list. You keep them on your phone contact. And, you know, once we started like praying for them, they stay in your heart. And sometimes you don't have to like put 3 hours with one person, but you just send a text, hey, how is life? You know, when they're in town, they would say, oh yeah, you know, let's get together. If I could squeeze an hour in between my appointment, I would. And they know my life. I told her, look, I'm in a Bible study in this mall. I have a window. Hey, are you free then? And some of them will actually pop up. They're like, yeah, I miss you. I want to see you. And that is how we can keep up. And it doesn't take extravagant dinner. But when we want to target a family, a couple, that's when you plan dinner. You know, that's something that you could plan with your husband and your kids. And it's so cool that when you do that with your family, you are actually showing your children how to reach out to people. And it's always fun because whenever we want to reach out to a non-Christian, in some weeks I will always ask my children, hey, do you have quiz? Do you have tests next week? Any projects due? And they say, no, Mommy, this weekend we're pretty free. Is it okay if we invite a family? But you guys have to take care of their kids. And we will plan it together as a family. And that became a family project. And she would be like, okay, Mom, the kids, how old are they? Boys, girls? We'll plan the games. We'll set out the toys. And then sometime I would have appointment before the dinner time. I'll say, okay, Tash, I need you to pick music and play it. And then Athena, you set out the table and candles. But it became fun for them. And you know, sisters, if we we have such heart that, we want to show God, but we first learn about their life, and everything will match. And at the same time, as we are learning, we are also teaching our children to learn to love people. I had always enjoyed like entertaining people at home, and it's funny because my daughter is very cheeky. They were hosting some senior citizen, and she cooked breakfast for them before the Ohio Valley rally. And she was very cheeky. She took a picture of the breakfast she prepared, and she said, "Mommy, you train us well." She's not in this room, so I can talk about her. But I was laughing. I said, "Hey, She said, I cannot let them walk out from my house empty." But those are some of the things that I appreciate being in the ministry. I learned being hospitable from the Brumleys when we visited them. When I stay with Tess, Terry Fontenot, her name is Tess now. And whenever I stay with, Kay or Jennifer, Hallam is always inspired to watch Doug cook or make grill and all that. And Hallam said, I don't get envious of people, but I'm envious of men who can cook. I say, it's okay, honey. You can learn. I don't mind staying here for 2 weeks, so you get to learn. I get to have nice dinner. But that's a fun part of being in the ministry. When we keep our hearts soft, we learn a lot of new things. And it's always fun. Every time I sit with Jennifer, I learn her artistic, creative mind, and she was just showing me a boat. It was like, wow, this is amazing. This is what makes being in the ministry colorful. So, for all the sisters who are like young, your first 5 years, develop something that you could learn from each other. I love design. So, so one of the things I enjoy doing is actually designing shirts for Harlem. Yeah. With batik. So on a very busy and exhausting day, I would pull out 2 boxes of materials and I'll play with it. And it's fun. Harlem says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I say, "Just go to bed." But that's how I de-stress. Sometimes I enjoy cooking. But sisters, when you are around each other, we have so many talents around us. Learn from each other. Learn from your studies. When we do relational evangelism, we could actually look into the resources around us. Recently, I set up a cooking class. There is a group of moms that I'm reaching out to whose children are all in Boston. So we have a lot of Indonesian kids studying the Bible in America, going to college in America. And all the moms, they have too much time. Too much time, too many resources. So they would want to control their children from afar. So they formed this group called Boston Moms. But what's the fun part is, this chef that I'm studying the Bible with is part of that. So we actually pack up and say, "Hey, let's do cooking class. I'll do the promotion and you teach." And we had fun. There was a group of moms that came together, about 8 of us, and one of them is studying the Bible now. And it's like, I don't know when they will become disciples, but they would enjoy having fellowship with disciples. And that is some of the things that we can do together. You should look around in the room or in the church, the resources you have. If someone who is good with art, painting, do a fun gathering. You can talk about God, but you could actually paint together. And that is some of the things that when we keep our hearts soft, we could actually always look for opportunity to learn. Anywhere we are. And the third thing is, I felt like no matter what we do, we actually need to find ways to really enjoy our life. You know, sometimes we feel so responsible. How many of us feel like I'm responsible for this and that? Oh yeah, you know, all of us can relate to that. And especially when we have a busy week, we feel like we have to plan for everything. We have to take care of everything. The worst part is when our children get sick or we get sick. Then we feel so bad and so frustrated. You know, sisters, when we're in the ministry, you know, thank you so much.
No problem.
I think one of the things we need to learn is be kind to yourself. You know, I know most of us, we are very hardworking. You know, we are so hardworking, and if we grow up with parents with unrelenting standard, we're like, you know, I need to give my best, I need to push myself, then you die. Right? At the end of the, it's like, huh? And when we are too tired, it is very tempting to think like, you know what, I don't think I can do this.
Yep, it's true.
It's very tempting for us to say, you know what, I can't do the ministry. But you know, sisters, when you know, when someone has vision and you have the calling, yes, you can do it. But just don't overdo it. You know, the mistake that I did before was we overdid it. There was a point in our walk when we had to kind of like take over leading the whole Indonesia. We felt so responsible that we discipled too many people. And Harlem and I were like two busy roommates, working our own schedule, and we hardly had time to connect. The minute I hit the pillow, I was dead. And we did that the second year in the ministry. And I was like, you know, this is not the life I want. So sisters, if some of you are feeling that, get advice. You know, you need to be kind to yourself. Because if we're not taking care of ourselves, we don't know how to teach the women around us to take care of themselves. And if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of the people that we want to reach out to. And if this is a circle, if we don't pick it up now, you will not last long in the ministry. How many of us were in the midst of the crisis in 2002 and we feel like, whoa, I don't know if I can stay in the ministry. I don't know what the women's role were. I know we were so confused, right? I was confused too. And we were not sure if we were getting our support. But I was like, you know, hon, let me find something to do that is more productive. I was like, well, we don't know if we're going to get our support. I don't know if, you know, the church can afford to pay my salary. If you don't mind, I said, I would like to set up this project to set up a school. Helen was like, you're out of your mind. I said, well, you know, I think God put it in my heart. Because we were looking for good schools, but the good ones we couldn't afford. And then the one we could afford are lousy. So I'll say, well, hon, you know, the women's role are not clear. So let me do something fun. And he was like, well, you know, God, can I open up the way where we actually reach out to a couple who own schools? And they wanted us to help them. And the wife wanted to recruit me to run her school. I say no, because I have the ministry. I can't run your school, but I would love to learn about your school. So we started learning, and we started like meeting them and listening. And then at one point he was, hey, you know, we're setting up another branch in the south. would you be interested to be part of the investment? I said, I don't know. I said, that one I have to call my parents. But that was when things were uncertain. So I called up my dad. I said, well, God, if this is part of your plan, when I call my dad, he will have the money. It was just that. It was a simple prayer. When I called my dad, he was like, oh, that's a good idea. How much do you need? And I told him how much. I said, okay, I'll work it out. You'll get the money in a month. I was like, whoa, I was scared. I was like, wow, God just answered my prayer. But that was a time where, I became a tent maker, but at the same time enjoying the ministry because you see so many opportunities. When I jumped into, of course we got a lot of advice. And I talked to John and Karen and different people. We I really wanted to do this, at least for my children's education. And John was like, well, as long as you don't get too tired, you can manage your time. And so we had to sit down with all the investors and say, well, they want me to run the school. But I said, well, on one condition, I decide my schedules. Because I have a ministry, and I need to go to staff meeting. I need to go to retreat. I need to train women. I have Bible studies every day, so I need to set my own schedule. And all of them say, okay, whatever, we trust you. I was like, oh wow, that wasn't hard. But it was something, it was a phase in my life where I felt like, I really needed to rely on God. Because my schedule starts from 5 in the morning and ends at 11:30. The only time I had was 30 minutes nap after school. And I would usually squeeze a couple of Bible study during lunchtime. So the school actually designed a room where there is a private room, a table where I could have Bible study. And it was fun. It was tiring, but it was very fulfilling because I was doing something that I enjoyed. And we baptized so far with that school about 15 people. And a lot of the teens became disciples. And now, with the different things that we set up with the school, we have Mom in Touch, where every week the mom will get together, and once a month we'll do parenting talk. And we have a lot of studies from those meetings. And those are some of the things that I thought, when God is blessing your plan, He will actually provide all the resources. Sisters, when you pray for something, do you really believe that God can do it? God actually will provide all the resources you need. You look at this Samaritan woman, like at the end of the story, she was used to impact the whole community. Do you have faith that God can actually use you for the same purpose? God can use wherever you are, whatever you have, whatever situation you have, to actually impact some women around you. But are you aware, are you sensitive of those opportunities? When you dream with God, God will make it happen, not us. This is some of the things that I learned over the years that, I don't have to feel pressure when things don't go my way. Or even the women that I study the White Bible with, they don't make it. It's okay. It's not their timing yet, but they need to feel my love. They need to feel God's love through us. These are some of the things I learned over the years where, that verse we used to teach seeking God with people about, Jeremiah 29. God has a beautiful plan for you. Do we really project that when we teach the Bible? Or do we make discipleship became such a commitment and not a plan that God laid before us. Sometimes because we are a disciple and we understand commitment, but we are a disciple of what? I'm 22 years as a Christian. So we understand commitment. We understand responsibility. We understand, as a disciple, what we need to do. But when we're teaching that to a non-Christian, do we make it so hard just because we live it like that? Or do we make them see God's plan as a beautiful plan? And we actually guide them step by step to have the faith to live up to God's expectation. That is something that changed my mindset like the past few years when we started doing the relational evangelism. I studied the Bible with a woman who just had a divorce with 3 kids. And when I studied the Bible with her, I said, Vanya, I don't know how to manage all this. Like even coming to a Bible study with you, I could really squeeze a time because she's also a working mom. And I need to go home and help my kids' homework because I could not afford to hire a tutor. When I heard this is what she's going through, I say, you know what? How old are your children? Where do you live? We should try to find ways to enlighten her burden. I said, what do you do? How do you teach her to, So I actually even went through the whole scheduling, planning with her. And I say, if your child is above 10, you can actually train them to be a bit independent. So I share what I do with my girls. I say, with my children, I would actually show them, look, a lot of the homework you already know. So I don't want you guys to depend on mommy, but I want you to try to do it yourself. And on the problems that you don't understand, just circle it. When I come home, I usually try to come home earlier. I would actually go through all the circled questions or problems, homework. And I just share what I do with my children. She was like, wow, I never thought of that. Because sometimes they're just caught up with life. And Asians are very spoiled. Sometimes they just rely on tutor. They pay a tutor certain hours. And I say, you know what? If you cannot afford to bring in tutor to your house, you need to train your kids to be independent. And once you started doing that, it's just like, wow, it actually worked. But sisters, those are the wisdom we can pray for. When we have a situation with a woman, we need to pray that God will give us insights, ideas, and wisdom so that we can guide them to see God is working. When they train their kids God's way, they will benefit. My alarm is but those are some of the things that I think, as we stay in the ministry, we need to learn from Jesus that he doesn't do things in the box. He doesn't conform to the normal pattern. And we need to imitate Jesus. And as women, sometimes we have a lot of thoughts, doubts, questions. How do you go about that? You have so many awesome sisters around you. Do you get advice? Do you have the humility to always want to learn? When I was first year in the ministry, a lot of things I didn't know. I asked a lot of stupid questions. There was one time, in a D group where a sister was walking out to the kitchen to get drink, and I said, hey, could you get me one, please? And then when he came back, I was busy talking to someone. She gave me the drink. I forgot to say thank you. And that sister had attitude. And then I I didn't get it. But then she confessed. So I asked Karen, I said, hey Karen, I know, I should have said thank you, but it was not intentional. But if I were in that position, or if I were a sister to a sister, I wouldn't be so petty. And I said, so I don't understand. Karen said, well, you know what? Do it the Christ way. What you are is not what she is. So if she feels it strongly, you still have to do the right thing. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But those are some of like simple things. I felt like, being in the ministry for 22 years, those 3 things, make sure that our love for God is not compromised. And we need to constantly guard our heart. And we need to thoroughly live our life. I do hope that we'll last forever in the ministry. But we are in the ministry because we love God, but we want to enjoy the ministry. Amen.
Amen.